Aarya Bhavreen arrived in Canada dreaming of a fresh start. Devak Verma thought he had found the perfect wife. But on their wedding night, one secret phone, one shocking video, and one fatal decision turned their honeymoon suite into a crime. Seeing ***, it was the kind of wedding that people would talk about for years. The grand venue near Brampton shimmered under golden lights, and guests from across Canada, India, filled the hall. Devak Verma, the groom, stood proudly in an ivory sherwani, greeting guests with folded hands and a modest smile. At 31, he had everything a man could want: a thriving tech company, a luxury condo in downtown Toronto, and now, a beautiful bride by his side. Aarya Bhavreen had arrived from Punjab only 2 months earlier, and in that short time she had completely charmed Devak, his family, and their entire social circle. She was quiet, graceful, and spoke just enough to seem mysterious, which made her even more appealing to those around her. Aarya wore a deep red bridal lehenga with golden embroidery, her eyes downcast as she walked beside Devak during the rituals. She looked every bit the perfect Indian bride, and for a man like Devak, image was everything. He had always been selective and precise in every area of his life. When he found Aarya through a matrimonial site, he believed he had discovered someone equally refined, someone ready to fit into the successful life he had built in Canada. The ceremony was flawless. Pandit recited the mantras, flower petals floated down from the stage canopy, and photographers captured every moment. Guests praised Aarya's beauty and her poised manner. No one could have guessed that beneath the layers of jewelry and makeup was a woman who had crossed an ocean, not for love, but for escape. That night, after the reception, the couple checked into a luxury suite at a 5-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Their suite had been decorated with rose petals and scented candles, a romantic touch arranged by Devak's sister. Everything was in place for the perfect beginning to a perfect marriage. Aarya excused herself to shower and remove her heavy wedding attire. Devak, still dressed in part of his sherwani, sat on the edge of the bed scrolling through his phone, glancing occasionally toward the bathroom door. Then it happened. His phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number with a Canadian area code. No message, just a video file. Devak opened it, assuming it might be a well-wisher sending wedding clips. Instead, he found something that made his chest tighten. The video showed Aarya, not in bridal clothing, but in ripped jeans and a black crop top, standing beside a man Devak had never seen. They were laughing, holding each other, and speaking in rapid Punjabi, their voices loud and casual. The video appeared to be taken in India, and there was no mistaking the intimacy between them. Devak watched as the man kissed Aarya on the cheek, and she responded by wrapping her arms around him. He watched it again, and then again. Each time, his heart sank further. There was no context, no explanation, but the images were clear. This woman, his wife, wasn't who she claimed to be. The image of her in his mind began to shatter piece by piece. He got up from the bed numb, his fingers still gripping the phone. The door to the bathroom was closed, the sound of running water loud and steady. Devak walked to Aarya's luggage. It sat neatly zipped in the corner of the room. He hesitated for a moment, then opened it. Among folded saris and bangles, he found a small black pouch hidden beneath layers of clothing. Inside was a second phone. He unlocked it using the pattern she had once casually drawn on her main phone earlier that week. What he saw next was worse than the video. Dozens of messages exchanged with someone named Jay, along with photos more intimate than the first video and multiple bank transfers to an Indian account. Some messages hinted at plans, escape routes, and even fear. There were references to police, to someone being watched, and instructions not to use her real name. He stood still in the middle of the room, the soft glow of the phone lighting up his stunned face. The bathroom door clicked open behind him, steam billowing out. But Devak didn't turn. He couldn't. Everything he believed about Aarya had changed in a single moment, and something inside him snapped. By morning, Aarya would be dead. The silence in the hotel room was thick, almost unnatural. Aarya stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, humming softly, unaware of the storm brewing on the other side of the room. Devak didn't speak. He simply stood still, eyes fixed on the second phone, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him. The romantic glow of candles and flower petals seemed mocking now, their scent almost sickening. In a matter of minutes, everything had unraveled. He had married a stranger. Devak placed the phone down on the side table and walked to the window, staring out at the glowing skyline. A flurry of emotions churned inside him: shock, humiliation, anger. He wasn't a man who lost control easily. He was used to structure, control, and making calculated decisions. But now his entire life had been blindsided by a secret so deep that it made him question every moment he had spent with Aarya. He thought back to the first time they met in person, at Pearson International Airport. She had looked nervous, her hands trembling slightly as she wheeled her luggage through arrivals. He had taken it as a sign of adjustment, the usual discomfort of leaving home and entering a new world. But now it made him wonder, was she nervous? Because she feared getting caught? Because the life she had fled from was still too close? Unable to bear the stillness of the room, Devak stormed into the bathroom and splashed cold water on his face. He stared at his reflection, the groom from just a few hours ago, now replaced by a man betrayed and unrecognizable. He had trusted her completely, introduced her to his family, even changed the name on their business account to include hers. Was it all part of her plan? Aarya sat on the bed now, drying her hair with a towel, glancing at her phone. Her main phone. She didn't seem to realize the other one was missing. Devak, heart racing, took a deep breath and returned to the room. He said nothing, just picked up his own phone and walked back to the corner. The video kept replaying in his mind, the laughing, the kisses, the man whose face he didn't recognize but now hated with every cell in his body. He opened Aarya's second phone again. The text threads painted a damning picture. There were references to border risks, flights, and the last drop. The man named Jayan, who went by just Jay in the phone, had sent her encrypted bank account details and warned her not to talk on calls. The messages weren't romantic only, they were operational. It wasn't just a love affair. It was a partnership and something much darker. In one chilling message dated just a week before the wedding, Jayan had written, "Don't forget who got you out. Stay quiet, stay married, we need time." That message made Devak sit down. His mind raced. What did that mean? Stay married. Was this whole wedding just a cover? A safe landing for her in Canada while someone else pulled the strings from back home? He started to feel sick. Everything: her arrival, the fast-tracked wedding, her hesitance to share personal details. It all started to fit together like a puzzle he had never noticed until it was complete. Sometime past midnight, Devak left the hotel room quietly. The hallway was empty. He took the elevator down, still in his wedding kurta, and walked into the cold night. The wind slapped his face, but he welcomed it. It grounded him. Behind the hotel, near the service alley, he found a dumpster. With trembling hands, he tossed a plastic bag inside. Inside it was the second phone and the black pouch it came in. He stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, then turned and walked back inside. When he returned to the suite, Aarya was asleep, or pretending to be. Her back was turned, her breathing slow and steady. Devak climbed into bed without saying a word, staring at the ceiling. He didn't sleep. The hours crawled by, each minute laced with thoughts of what had been hidden from him. By sunrise, something inside him had shifted. The betrayal had calcified into rage. He wasn't just a broken groom anymore. He was a man who had been used, lied to, and discarded. And that morning, he would make sure Aarya never lied to anyone again. The investigation began before the sun had fully risen. A silent 911 call from the hotel room at 6:14 a.m. triggered an immediate dispatch. When the paramedics and police arrived, they found Devak Verma sitting on the edge of the bed, his clothes blood-stained, his hands limp in his lap. Aarya's lifeless body lay on the carpet nearby, half covered in a hotel bedsheet. Her head was badly injured, blood pooled beneath her. The room was in disarray, flower petals trampled, pillows thrown, and a decorative wooden sculpture from the living Aarya now lying fractured beside her body. The officers quickly separated Devak and took statements. He was calm, strangely composed, and claimed he had acted in self-defense. He told them he had discovered something disturbing about his wife and confronted her. According to his account, she panicked, attacked him with the wooden decoration, and in the struggle that followed, she slipped, hit her head, and died. But nothing in the scene matched that explanation. There were no signs of injury on Devak, no defensive wounds, no bruises, not even scratches. Aarya's injuries, on the other hand, were severe and deliberate. The autopsy would later confirm that she had been hit 3 times on the side of the skull with blunt force. Hard, precise blows, not an accident. Not self-defense, Detective Sean Linwood of the Toronto Homicide Unit took over the case within hours. He was known for his measured, meticulous style and had handled domestic homicide cases before. But this one had layers that puzzled even him. A fast-track wedding, a foreign bride, and now a death within 24 hours. He ordered a forensic sweep of the room and instructed his team to obtain footage from the hotel's security system. What they uncovered over the next few hours shifted the narrative entirely. Around 2:37 a.m., Devak had left the hotel room alone. Wearing his wedding kurta, carrying a small black plastic bag. Cameras followed him as he took the service elevator to the parking level, walked out the back, and tossed the bag into the dumpster before returning 10 minutes later. It was a calculated move, not something a panicked husband would do immediately. After a fatal accident. By mid-afternoon, the detectives retrieved the bag from the dumpster. Inside, they found Aarya's second phone, cracked but still functional, and a pouch containing foreign currency, a USB stick, and a used international SIM card. Digital forensics began analyzing the phone and USB. What they found began to draw a far more sinister picture than even the murder suggested. The messages on Aarya's hidden phone revealed a long-standing connection to Jayan Kalan, a wanted man in Punjab with known links to drug cartels and illegal border operations. Aarya's name appeared in 2 open Indian investigations related to laundering money through small businesses. One of those businesses, a salon in Ludhiana, had been burned down mysteriously just weeks after police conducted a raid. She was never arrested, but was placed under informal surveillance. 2 weeks later, she left India and arrived in Canada with a fiancé visa. Detective Linwood now believed that Aarya had not come to Canada to start a new life. She came to disappear. And the man she married, Devak, was either a victim or something else entirely. His background was clean, his business legitimate, and his records showed no prior police contact. But one detail stood out: his bank account, where Aarya had been added as a co-holder, showed multiple transactions days before the wedding transfers to a newly created numbered account in British Columbia, a common method used to disguise financial trails. This raised the possibility that Devak had known more than he claimed. Maybe the video wasn't a shocking discovery. Maybe it was a final confirmation of suspicions he had been harboring for weeks. Maybe the confrontation that night wasn't a spontaneous argument, but a calculated act. The timeline was full of red flags, and for Detective Linwood, the case was no longer just about what happened in that hotel room. It was about why Aarya died and what secrets she had brought across the ocean that were too dangerous to be left alive. The hotel suite, once a symbol of celebration, had become a sealed crime scene. Forensics teams moved carefully through the space, photographing blood patterns, collecting fibers and lifting fingerprints. The wooden sculpture used in the attack was swabbed for blood and fingerprints, then bagged as the presumed murder weapon. Aarya's belongings were examined closely, both her phones, her handbag, and the suitcase she had brought from India. Nothing in the room suggested a spontaneous argument. Everything pointed towards something premeditated. Detective Sean Linwood returned to the station with evidence that disturbed him deeply. The brutality of the act wasn't aligned with someone caught off guard. It was violent, excessive, and pointed to rage fueled by something much deeper than a single night's betrayal. He re-examined the timeline, the secret phone discovered. Before midnight, Devak's first trip out of the suite around 2:30 a.m., and Aarya's death just a few hours later. But it was the second trip Devak took that truly complicated the story. Around 4:20 a.m., hotel surveillance captured Devak once again walking toward the elevator. This time, he was wearing different clothes, dark jeans and a hoodie. He carried a duffel bag, which he took out of the hotel through a side entrance. He was gone for nearly 45 minutes. When he returned, the bag was no longer with him. Detectives searched the surrounding areas and contacted Waste Management Services. Despite thorough efforts, the second bag was never found. In his official interview, Devak stuck to his original story. He claimed he had discovered messages on Aarya's phone, felt shocked, and confronted her. According to him, the confrontation escalated. He said Aarya became violent, struck him first, and he defended himself. He insisted it was never meant to go that far. But the absence of injuries on his body and the forensic evidence strongly contradicted his version. Devak could not explain the 2 trips out of the hotel room. He claimed he stepped out to clear his head, but when asked why he changed clothes and carried bags with him, his answers became vague. He refused to disclose what was in the duffel bag and claimed it had nothing to do with her death. His calmness, almost robotic in nature, unsettled the detectives. The autopsy report arrived the following day. Aarya had suffered 3 distinct blows to the side of her head, each strong enough to cause skull fractures. There were no defensive wounds on her arms or hands, no signs of a struggle. The pathologist concluded that she was likely taken by surprise and hit before she could react. The injuries indicated focused aggression, not random panic. The USB drive, found in the discarded plastic bag, held another twist. It contained scanned identity documents under different names, Aarya's face, but with 3 alternate aliases, all with variations of her name. One document was a fake Canadian permanent residency card. Another was an application to a beauty school in Alberta under the name Ria Sani. These files suggested long-term planning, not desperation. Aarya had not come to Canada just to marry. She had come to create a new identity. Detective Linwood began to consider a darker theory, that both Aarya and Devak were playing roles in a staged marriage, and something had gone very wrong. But what pushed Devak to kill her? Greed? Fear of being exposed? Or was it a desire to control the narrative once he realized she wasn't his to control? Investigators traced the fake documents to a printer in Mississauga, where a small business had been raided 6 months earlier for document forgery linked to overseas networks. The name Jayan Kalin popped up again. Slowly, a web emerged, one connecting illegal migration, fraud, hidden money, and 2 people caught in the middle of it. Devak, now in custody, had no history of violence, no record of crime, but his behavior after the killing revealed intent. The disposal of evidence, the calm demeanor, and the missing duffel bag all hinted at someone trying to cover his tracks. Just not well enough. The final pieces of evidence were falling into place. But one question haunted everyone involved in the case. Was Devak really the only one responsible for Aarya's death? Or was he just another pawn in a much larger, invisible game? The courtroom was filled with tension as the murder trial of Devak Verma began. Reporters, community members, and legal observers crowded into the gallery, eager to witness the unraveling of a case that had shocked both Canada and India. Prosecution presented a compelling argument that Devak had discovered Aarya's hidden past and made a calculated decision to end her life in a fit of rage. The physical evidence, including the murder weapon, surveillance footage, and damning contents of the recovered phone and USB drive, all painted a picture of a man who planned his actions carefully after uncovering secrets he believed could ruin him. But then came a twist no one expected. Meryl Kaur, Aarya's cousin living in Toronto, was called to testify. She had stayed silent through the initial investigation, claiming she was too devastated to speak. But her testimony on the second day of trial shifted the direction of the entire case. Meryl revealed that several weeks before the wedding, Aarya had confided in her about something unsettling. Devak had already discovered parts of Aarya's past long before the wedding night. He had confronted her with threats, screenshots, and even bank statements he wasn't supposed to have access to. According to Meryl, Devak never canceled the wedding or reported anything to the police. Instead, he demanded that Aarya sign over full control of their joint business account and grant him access to all communication tied to her immigration paperwork. She refused at first, but eventually gave in out of fear and pressure. Meryl said Aarya felt trapped, that she couldn't return to India because of the people she had run from, and couldn't escape Devak because he had begun using her secrets as leverage. The revelation changed everything. If Devak had known the truth weeks before the marriage and still went ahead with it, it meant he had time to think, plan, and manipulate the situation. Prosecutors now argued that Devak didn't just act out of sudden betrayal, but had begun laying the groundwork for control and dominance. Aarya, in this version of the story, was no longer just a deceiver, but also a victim of blackmail and intimidation. Devak's defense tried to dismiss Meryl's claims, suggesting she was exaggerating to protect her cousin's reputation. But phone records showed calls and messages between Meryl and Aarya in the weeks leading up to the wedding-long conversations, many of which took place late at night. A few fragments of recovered messages matched Meryl's account of Aarya's fears. In one, Aarya wrote, "He's watching everything. I made a mistake coming here." When the verdict came down, the courtroom held its breath. The jury found Devak Verma guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with no chance of parole for 18 years. There was no emotional outburst from Devak. He stood still as the sentence was read, his face blank, as though he had already accepted the outcome long ago. The aftermath of the case left a complicated legacy. Public opinion was divided. Some viewed Aarya as a criminal who had lied her way into a new life and believed Devak was pushed to the edge. Others saw Aarya as a woman desperate to escape a dark past, only to fall into the hands of a man who saw her vulnerability as an opportunity to control her. Journalists dug into the international angle, revealing more details about Jayan Kalan and his network in Punjab. The Indian authorities reopened their case, and new leads emerged about others who had used similar marriage-based methods to relocate and vanish. Aarya's death became a symbol of how crime, desperation, and manipulation could collide in the most intimate of relationships. But for those closest to her, the story was far more personal. Meryl never returned to the courtroom after her testimony. She moved away from Toronto and refused all interviews. Devak's family remained silent, their once proud name now forever tied to a story of betrayal and blood. In the end, the tragedy of Aarya Bhavreen was not just in how she died, but in how her life became a battleground between survival and control, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones shared between husband and wife.